Yes, first of all, it's my first Larnaca meeting, and so I'm really astonished about all the discussions you had. I'm 58 years old. I'm head of the department, environmental department in the city of Aachen, and I'm working since 30 years on this on climate protection stuff, and I studied urban planning, and so this was the thing I wanted to do in my job, and yes, so I have such a lot, yes, quite a lot of experience, but my English is not the best. So I hope you can understand what I want to say.
We understand you quite well.
Okay. The youth movement in Aachen is really very strong, and this was the most important point to change our local doing, or our local discussion from discussion to doing. They really were many young people, and they had
you can say it in German, and I can try to translate if you have problems.
Okay, this is better. Also die Jugend hat mit sehr viel Mut und Courage den Rat, der hier ohnehin relativ umweltorientiert ausgerichtet ist, stark grün dominiert, dazu gebracht, auch die notwendigen Ressourcen, sowohl personell als auch ökonomisch, in den Haushalt zu bringen. Ich habe immer gesagt, wir brauchen circa 5%.
One moment. I do not have the elephant's brain. You are in Aachen, right? Okay.
Yes.
The youth in Aachen, it's a small town, it's a big town in Germany, has taken a lot of courage to work with the governments, the local government, to transform Aachen city, right?
Yes.
Yes, into a more green place. What did you do there?
Yes, ich war im Grunde genommen derjenige, der das Bindeglied dargestellt hat.
Okay, Klaus Meiners was the one who did the connection between
Administration, Verwaltung,
yes.
und
Yes.
Verwaltung und im Grunde genommen dieser Initiative.
And the founders of the Youth Initiative. Thank you.
Ja, also mir war es sehr wichtig, weil ich mich mit volkswirtschaftlichen Fragen intensiv befasst habe in meiner Vergangenheit, dass der kommunale Haushalt endlich dieses Thema auch aufgreift.
Okay, to Klaus Meiners, let me try. This is a little bit more exhausting than I thought. I'm not used to translating this. Okay, I think you should try in English. It's better. I'm sorry.
Okay, I will try.
Yeah.
We got the chance to put about 100 million euro for the next 5 years into the communal economic plan.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the resources. We have a really good plan with many fields, about 72 projects to get the city CO2 neutral in about 10-15 years. And this is just the beginning. We are sure that we need more resources, but it was working for so many years without the possibility to do investment and to finance projects it was really I was really astonished that we got this big chance. And yes, it's clear that the youth is the only part in this game who can do the changement, and they have to be hard, like we see in this TV discussions. It's really their point that now we are really getting more chances to do good projects and to do what is important for future.
Yes, what we see in the discussion between younger people and older people, especially in talk shows, is that the young people concentrate on facts. Yeah, they concentrate on the real deal, what is going on out there right now. They are not corruptible any longer because they know it's their future we are talking about here. Thank you very much, Klaus Meiners from Aachen. Michael and Alfred and AOE, thank you for being here and participating in this conference. I think it might be best to first go the round here and everybody of you just for a few minutes tell us what are your thoughts on the keynote, what are your thoughts on what you have heard during the first hour, what can we do? I think let's start with AOE because it's an A. In alphabetical order. Aoi, what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, let me introduce quickly myself. So I was looking at climate change, biodiversity, and so forth for quite some time.
Yeah.
That's a fact-finding for many years now, which means reading all the literature, stuff like that. I also am a little bit, let's say, correlated with Greenpeace, where we run workshops on climate change at schools, because we felt it's a good idea to start with the young people to talk about things. Mm-hmm. So the biggest challenge I'm seeing at this point in time is the knowledge on climate change, biodiversity, or the failures of the economic models and so forth are all well known. So, I mean, climate change is documented for many years. All the data are there, the IPCC reports and so forth. Also, what the consequences of climate change are, I think, are well documented. And similarly, it's true, or let's say it starts becoming clearer and clearer what the economic failures are, what let's say system imminent weaknesses are, but nothing is happening.
Yeah.
I think that's for me one of the biggest challenges we are facing. And I also think about, individually we can do some stuff like buying regional food or not use a car or not flying to Mallorca or whatever, which is certainly good, but that's not enough. Mm. And so the question for me is, and there's one point which is very often not really put into the focus, is how can we, on the one hand, have population growth on planet Earth, and how can we, in a finite system like planet Earth, actually cope with the associated challenges, while at the same time we are facing stuff like climate change, which does have a negative impact on the feeding people worldwide. Yeah. So the whole point for me is what, on the one hand, we need to take a systemic view, because all that stuff is correlated. It's all linear, non-linear, complex systems. And so how, at the very end of the day, how can we wrap our brain around it and take appropriate actions to make things happen in a very, let's say, short to medium period of time? Yeah. Well, that's essentially what I'm thinking about, talking to many people worldwide. but somehow we always got back and stuck in some of these discussions.
Yes, yes, of course, because the solutions we need are solutions that have to come from a perspective of higher complexity management. And most people are not trained in higher complexity management, which leads to linear solutions, which leads to more conflicts, more local conflicts and global conflicts, the more dramatic the situation becomes. So that actually is a problem. From FORMWELT research perspective, we start at the beginning. We start with education and communication-oriented systems in order to bring people together to find local and global solutions via a combined human superintelligence. Which momentarily we have the problem that the people come together in the internet on toxic environments where they do not can create solutions that really can work. And these toxic environments reflect on a global scale on the way we interact with each other politically. As we can see it now, we have the pandemic, the corona, the crisis, and what we see there is that people not used to a crisis any longer on this scale, do not know how to deal with it. So they react on a very low level of complexity management and directly dive after the first 5-6 weeks into conflicts with each other. Yeah, and that is something we have to deal with on a global scale, that we create social architectures and social platforms where people can come together, where people are supported. People who have, for example, economic problems, very basic economic problems, like people in Germany living under the Hartz-IV welfare program, or even worse, people living in slums in India or somewhere else. These people have other problems, and these problems we have to solve, because we cannot rely on their natural born creativity. That is what we have to unleash here. Every single human being on this planet is a natural born problem solver on high complexity level, but we create societies where these natural born complexity management skills are not fostered. And that results in people who are engaging in a very low dimension conflicts because they're emotionally overwhelmed when confronted with another form of complexity like we have now today, where algorithmization, digitization, globalization, and networking come together like in a chemical experiment. And now we have to deal with this emergent situation and the crisis on top of it. These are the problems we have to deal accordingly to questions of green energy, supporting poor people in third world countries, etc., in order to give people the possibility to change their own lives for the better. And when we have a look, for example, in supporting third world countries, and we look at the funds and where the money goes, it mostly goes into management, mostly managing the problems, and not to the not to the people who actually need it. These are problems that all come together. So what we have to do here, and from my perspective, is to deliver global support on systemic education, not only for young people and children, but also for the elder ones, in order to first unleash their natural born complexity management skills. And when we do that, we can find better solutions. At the same time, of course, we have to work on the material solutions, but this is something also that has to be done. Okay. Aoi, now you are there. What are your ideas so far?
Oops. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Do you have any questions out of the round?
Or ideas, questions and ideas, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I can start sharing thoughts, but it's no idea and no question. So I think when listening to the keynote, and we had this short conversation with Søren, also when preparing the room. When you listen at the keynote, for example, it's getting more clear and obvious again how large and how big and how critical this problem or this crisis is. And on the other hand, how complex it is, how long it is known. So the feeling, the feeling is when you're on the day-to-day routine, let's say, work, family, whatever, you can quickly forget about the extent of the problem. But when you have time to listen to the keynote and to really put your mind at it, it's clear how urgent and how big the problem is. And on the other hand, I mean, it's so complex because it is a systemic problem, and all the systems seem to be very slow in changing. So I think it's very easy to get resignated and really then just concentrate on your day-to-day work, or day-to-day routine. So
Yes.
And of course, I don't have a solution or idea. You have some. You're trying your best. So I think that's the hard thing. That's a hard problem, and it's easy to get resignated.
Yes, you're addressing a very important topic I think, because I'm observing the way society deals with climate change since 1980. Something like that. And it was even in the 70s of the last century very clear that climate catastrophe will happen. Alfred and Klaus and some other older people remember probably the articles back then in Geo magazine in Germany with outlining what will happen in the end. And ordinary life, especially in first world countries, means you are feeling well. Most people are healthy. Most people have a job. They live their lives. They support their children, and so on. And along the way, everything looks fine so far, because it's not there yet. And that is something the children from Fridays for the Future address all the time, that it is not fine, and it is already happening, and people in other countries already are suffering. And we have in Germany the Ahrweiler catastrophe. But it lies in the human nature not to see the crisis, because our brain is hardwired to be traditional and progressive at the same time. We are progressive when crisis comes, when it's really necessary to do so, or when everything is fine and we are wealthy enough to have the luxury to be progressive. But there's another thing, and that is very interesting. Psychology found out lately that people who are getting richer, who are wealthier than other people, tend not to care any in the same extent for poor people like people do with less money and less wealth, because wealth delivers the possibility to be occupied with yourself more. When you have no money, you have to see that you have a home, that you have something to eat. You have existential problems, and that keeps you in an alarm state. But the moment that changes, the human brain, the human psyche tends to concentrate on his or her self, on his or her life, to do more that helps to fulfill yourself, to explore yourself, etc., and to have more fun. And all of this comes together and blinds us for what is going on out there. Is that something you can relate to? And now you all feel terrible, right?
Yeah, I can relate to it. So yeah.
Yeah. But I think some things like the catastrophe here in Ahrweiler, that is actually something of an eye-opener. So maybe we are now at the point where we are flicking around from being kind of just set back and now more interactive.
You should not believe that. You should not.
I-
We have we have switched into a new era where every day something big is happening. And the moment the big thing is done, another big thing is happening, and another big thing is happening, and another big thing is happening, and we are forgetting what we should have learned. That is one of the problems we have to deal here right now, that we have to slow down and really learn. I would not count on the German population to remember the Ahrweiler catastrophe as something relevant.
And I would not say that all of the population will be able to, but so if I might just take my wife as an example, who was there and actually cleaning up some of the rubble and debris that was left over.
Yes.
I do think this will leave, at least for us, a lasting impression.
Yes, yes. Those who have experienced it, that is another thing. Yeah, that's a completely different kind of animal. But when you have a look at the social media, you see that people are getting numb of what is happening in the world. And a good example is what is going on with Donald Trump right now. He's really preparing for the next round. And everyone was so exhausted after his 4 years that all of us started to concentrate on something else. But it is really possible that Trump is happening again. And that is typical. And that is something even more typical to this new era we have entered, where we have to deal with a complete other kind of complexity now. And that is changing a lot. Those of you who have the luxury, please do not feel offended. It is not meant as an offense. Those of us who have the luxury to go to places and help and experience the existential catastrophe will change and can have a chance to change. But not many people are doing this. Yes, when we have a global look on the problems. So it will need one more crisis and one more catastrophe and even one more crisis and one more catastrophe, etc., for humankind in the end to change. And when we have a look into the history of our species, we see that every time something like this is happening, it comes to a global culling.
Change by disaster.
Yes, always. And that we haven't changed that much from compared to the people of the old Rome, etc. It's the technology that makes a difference. But in the end, when we see how intelligent are we and how intelligent have been the people in old Rome, we see there's not a big difference. And when you look at high cultures and their downfall, it happens really fast compared to how old they are. It took in the old Rome, it took around about 300 years and everything was gone.
Gitta, I'm thinking about the question. I think that technological progress we can do it in between about 15 years, 20 years, if all of us, all the states want to go this way, and if we change economical rules. But what you are talking about is a social movement and a social changing that needs, for my opinion, 50 years or more. And this in a worldwide context is very complicated. So I'm thinking if you're right, because I know that we have to change the social systems and all that, but there is no time.
Yes.
And it's so difficult. So I really understand and accept this as an important step. My wife comes from Latin America, and so from a quite poor country. I see all these problems, but changing our society first and on the way a little bit technology. This will fail.
That is, yeah. That is not what I'm saying here. It's we have to do both. Yeah, technology has always given us opportunities that could help. That has helped with crises. I totally agree there with you. I'm not saying let us not go into research in even more green energy. That's not what I'm saying here. But when we have a look at mankind and how we learn, then we have first to learn who we are, how we are functioning, what is the way we are think, communicate, and how do we create society. And the moment we understand this and really accept that we are not that perfect, yeah, that we are not that smart, that we are not smarter than our forefathers, when we accept that, we can look at our solutions in a different perspective. Now, at the moment, I see everywhere on the planet people rising up, trying spiritual approaches, trying empathy approaches, trying new, they think, new ideas, but we have had all of them and they did not help. On the contrary, when we have a look, for example, at the Project Love, if we want to call it so, yeah, we see it did both. It created something in the beginning, especially, but in the long run, it created mass murder, yeah, genocide, stuff like that. We have to change fundamentally in order to not only survive climate crisis, we have to change in a way we have never changed before. That is what I'm approaching here, and we started with our research 33 years ago, so we know a long-term perspective a little bit. And you are completely right that it will take a long time, but we have one partner here we did not have ever before, and that is the internet. For the first time in the history of mankind, everybody on this planet can connect with everybody else in real time, and that is something. Then we can come together. But we have to do this in a completely different way.
Just a small return. I really think you are right. But if we fail on the way to change our energy system, we will fail surely in the social part, because
and the other way around.
If people have to move from their countries, and this will happen in a few years,
yes,
that the first people or societies have to move. This, what you are thinking about, will be much more complicated. It's right now so complicated, and the time is running. And so I accept all you say, but we have to focus because there is no time.
Yes, we have one advantage here. We are a species that evolution created with individual capabilities. Every single one of us is a natural born superintelligence. Every single one of us. So we can do both. Yes, we can, on one hand, work on new technology. And we have technicians who do that. We have corporations who are already working on new ideas. We have economists creating new ideas on how economy can work. And on the same time, with those like us, for example, who are working on new communication platforms and new language to connect all of us in a completely different way, we can do that also. Yeah, it's the left and the right hand. It's not one or the other. We can do both at the same time. And that is something that really can help. Let us see. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, right?
I have a comment here. When we talk about technology, that's typically something I would call a solutionist approach, which means, we look into all sorts of technology to get CO2 neutral energy and so on and so forth. And there's another league which is typically talking about mind shifts or new enlightenment, which is different from solutionist approach.
Yeah.
And certainly we don't want to play with the words now, but my feeling is we need both in
Yes.
a regular way. However, what I also believe is that technology and the solutionist approach is not working when we still have the paradigm of a classical economy in place. So, for example, when we all do these technology shifts, whatever they might be at the end of the day, but this is still working within a framework of beliefs like exponential growth and so forth. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, I worked in the past this year with software companies who now invest quite some money, to use their softwares in the context of sustainability, which means analyze supply chains, stuff like that. But if you take a closer look, it's all under the umbrella of growth. So we want to enable our customers to grow. And this is a wrong thinking from my perspective. So there's a couple of things which really needs to do in parallel. We have to, as I said earlier, we have to change the mind. We have, again, possibly get our brains around the complexity, but it's a transformation which have quite a few facets we have to look into. And how can we do some of these in parallel, and which ones might take a little bit longer?
Yeah. There's one approach we deliver from FORMWELT perspective, and I see, Michael, that you want to say something. Let me just answer here, and then we can switch to you if you like. From FORMWELT perspective, there is one idea that we have to navigate this emergent world. We have to navigate this emergent era. The best way to do that is to have the concepts to grasp what is going on there. And that is not something that is already there, which means systemic thinking, concepts of cybernetics, and so on. So people can really understand what's going on there. And many people do not. And we have to change that too. If we want to have a global shift in the way we address economy, the way we address our environments, and I do not mean only the ecological environment, but also the social environments in which we live. We need new concepts to grasp at first what is going on out there. We cannot grasp that, we will not find the solutions. And when we have the majority of the people of the planet who cannot grasp them, then we have a problem, especially in democratic societies. So I think, yes, the two of you are right, and also ROE is right. Those who already understood the problem are already about to change. Those who did not are not, and we have to think about ways to help them to comprehend what is going on. And along the way, we have to build and create new solutions. And technology is a two-edged sword. Yeah, we have seen that, but that's almost everything. Even language is a two-edged sword. Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think language is a technology that we developed, and it's the most important technology that we have. I mean, from an evolutionary perspective. And that's what differentiates humans from, that's why we can do what we can do, I think, because we are able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I think the crux of this, the whole climate issue is about what I feel is more about being aware, or more about the concept of conscientiousness, like being conscious. I mean, it's not about having accounting for carbon, and it's important in regards to what type of because we take the energy and what's the byproducts of that. But it's more about what we can be able to be conscientious, in my opinion, of the whole issue of climate change. And it's true that maybe we'll have millions of refugees, and I think we already have hundreds of thousands of people having poor quality of life and dying prematurely because of the way that because of the tools that we use.
Yes.
And I completely agree with that. The issue is like maybe I mean, we shouldn't. It's the social structure and how that works. And that we see many parts of the system that they're isolated, which they are not. Like we speak about the monetary system many times, and it's all interconnected, and especially the money. I think it maybe it won't need 50 years or 30 years. Maybe it could be shorter period, because the key right here is incentive. So we can change through positive we can have amplified effects if we have this type of loop. And we can have exponential changes, I mean, through the currency that we use, because I think it's the most important, it's the end point that we have at this moment, and the currency that we have. And my solution or my idea, or actually I need to come back, because this is the point. This is not, I say it's my solution, or my idea. It's not that, it's sort of ours. It's like what we do together. That's our idea. It's our solution. And that could possibly why it's work. And the model that we can use is we can use from evolution. And but I see the similarities between the market. Like you have, I don't know, we have like the market like goes up and down, and it's green or red, and so it's profit or loss. And you have also in evolution maybe two antagonistic like deletion, like you lose some genes, or these genes benefit and multiply or evolve. So I think we can see what reality, how nature does it, how physics work, and we can try and like maybe reduce maybe some of the entropy that we just the friction that's that the difference. I think that's the key part. Maybe it's very difficult to do, but I think that's the key part. If we exchange something that has a logic behind it, then it will have effects. Power laws will have big effects, ripple. But I think yes, I mean it's quite scary that maybe there is like arbitrage, like divide and conquer, that type of stuff happening, and it's not. It's a little bit scary.
Yes, I think to most people, the most scary part is how big this thing is. Yeah, it concerns everybody on this planet. It's on a global scale. It is really hard to grasp climate crisis and collapse of biodiversity as an ELE, yeah, as an extinction level event. That is hard to grasp, I think, for everybody. Thank you, Michael. Aoi, some last ideas. We have 7 minutes left and you are 6 people, so you are a little bit under-minuted.
Okay.
No, no, the typical German. No.
Yes, so I will try. I'm Jochen, and I'm with you. I don't think that the most people will change, although not the people of Arbeiter, although not the people which are living in Arbeiter. You can see it at the elections there. At the last elections, they had just voted exactly the same before 5 years, and I don't see it at the young guys. So the young guys voted for the party who tells you growth and getting more is most the best thing, and it's also more than 20% of the young guys voted them. So I don't see any big change there. For me, I think we need to go from a growth or efficiency to a sufficiency, better a degrowth, but you can't tell this the guys because it will change the whole world. Yes, it's really hard. I have one hope in Germany because of the federal court of the decision at the beginning of the year that that we also need to count the future for the young guys, and we need to. This is one of the highest law in Germany.
Yeah.
This is a little hope, but yeah, I also don't believe that we can do it with social change. My hope is the justice, the courts, which are doing this for us.
Yes, not with a game changer in there. I completely agree there with you, and that is something hard to deal with. On the other hand, when we have a look at what we, who we are now as a global society, as a global community of people, we have, when you look at one state, a football stadium, for example, and you have there 100,000 people in there, maybe. Let us be optimistic. 1,000 of them really comprehend what is going on and want to change. But when you look at these 100,000 people, these 1,000 will have a hard time to find each other. Yeah, and that is something we do not have now. We have the internet and we have the possibility and platforms where we can connect. And as Margaret Mead so wonderfully said, it has always been a small group of people who have led us to new change, and it is the same hope we can have here, that when we have something that can bring those together who actually want to change, then change can happen on a global scale, interestingly, because when a significant proportion of society starts to change, and this is only 10% need, and there's only 10% needed, then others will follow, and then we will have the change we need. So we have to stay, even while we are seeing who we are and that change is really hard, stay optimistic and say we can do this, but we will not do this the old ways. Everything we already did, we should see that it did not work, so we have to create something really new. I know that Michael is working on something there. I know that AOE is dedicated to creating an organization that really is helpful for mankind, and this is the hope. Or as Martin Frick so nicely said, it is us who will make the change. There is nobody else. And in these over 30 years I have worked on our projects, I never have let my hope go down, even while seeing that people are not reacting as fast as I wanted them to do. Because now where people come and see what we are doing, the number is growing by the day. But there's one thing I think that is important. With everything we do, with everything we believe in, every model we create, we have to ask ourselves, okay, this is us here in our small Germany. What are the people in China thinking about it? What is going on in India right now? What is going on in Argentina? In order to never forget the global scale we have to work on. So I think in 1 minute, we will all be departed by our facilitator. So here he is. Hello, Matthias. We had a lovely time, I think. I hope you enjoyed this. You will go into the next breakout session in around about 10 minutes. Matthias, you can help with the little
Yeah, I will
guidance
provide
here.
the link. Those are the same as for the first hour. So if you want to come back to discuss with Gitta once more, it's possible. Just use the same link used around 5 p.m. And I will just provide the link to the other sessions here in the Zoom chat. And then there is a short break and maybe we see each other again.
Thank all of you for being here with me, and thanks for sharing your thoughts and ideas with me. I hope we see each other again. The Larnaca-Conferences will be an ongoing project that every year will grow with new ideas and new topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh.
Now start. Thank you for joining me in this breakout session. And I'm excited to hear about your ideas on what I had to say to the keynote of Martin Frick. But of course, you can say also something what you have in mind in context of climate crisis. I think we shall start with you, Sabine. Where are you from? What are your ideas and questions? And we would love to hear something.
Yeah, I'm from Eichenau, and you might know Eichenau because Christine Eisfeld is also from Eichenau. I know her.
Ah!
Small word.
Yes.
And she recommended this conference to me, and so we have been talking. We even have a conference talk together once, I think 1 year ago or so, and she told me a lot about the conference and also your work, and so I'm here because I was curious. I wanted to see. And to be quite honest, I had a hard time to understand what you were saying after the session. And that was also when Christine told me about your common work that I had a hard time to understand. And so, yeah, I'm curious, maybe that it is possible to explain a little bit more simple so that even I can understand.
I can try, and you can tell me if I did a good job here. 33 years ago, the question I had in mind was, what can we do to help humanity to deal with the coming crisis? It was very clear to me that we will not deal with climate catastrophe accordingly and in time. From my perspective, it's not only a systemic reason, it's an inbuilt reason into how we communicate with each other, how we approach language, and how do we educate ourselves and condition ourselves. Is this so far comprehensible? Yeah. Okay, thank you very, very much. So the idea was to create a language that first can help me to create my own concepts consciously. that I know when I talk about freedom, or when I talk about food, or when I talk about complex systems or whatever, when I want to, can work with this language we have created, so I can always know what I really mean. I can say what I mean, and I can mean what I say, which is very helpful with a lot of things. And one is, for example, that when you're insecure, when you have some personal problems or psychological problems you have to deal with, you always know where you stand. That is helpful when you are confronted with conflict. You know you can go back to your own concept. You will not lose yourself completely. That is one point. The other is, I think it is very important that mankind is reconditioning itself in other education systems. Education is key, from my perspective, to the way how we deal with ourselves, how we deal with conflicts, how we deal with the world we are now facing, this emergent world, a world with another complexity. And when I look at climate crisis, I think it is a human crisis. We are very, very young species. Yeah, these some years are nothing in relation to how old our planet or even the universe is. So we are a species that has to learn, and we did not learn so far how we can change our own consciousness in a non-ideological way. Every time when people start to think about change, transformation, etc., they tend to ideological impulses. The ideological impulse is deeply embedded in our way, in the way who we are, in our nature. It helps us to come together to solve problematic situations. It helps us to build communities on one hand, but on the other, this always leads to conflict, because ideology also means you are part of it or you are the enemy. And the idea is that climate crises will not be tackled accordingly to and in time when we do not change. But when we only can change via ideology, and everything we do ideologizes, then we have a problem, because then we can run into even heavier problems, and even more dangerous catastrophe, while we are thinking everything is fine. For example, at the moment, I see that especially in wealthy countries, organizations tend to work with psychological models, yeah, in order to reorganize. The problem is the psychological model is constructed for the people, the wealthy people in the middle. Mostly, almost all data is from there, and from there we know next to nothing what is going on when you actually are in an existential crisis for a long time. That is a problem. There we have to learn that we have to tackle these problems with other models coming from sociology, for example. Yeah, sociology as a science that addresses problems in communication systems and not in the human psyche. And I've thought about stuff like that, and I think one of our biggest problem is that we are natural born complexity masters, but then we go to school, and even earlier in kindergarten, we are confronted with a society that suppresses complexity management skills in children. So then we have adults not any longer anymore to deal with complex problems and systems. And that is a big problem, because when we want to really have a change in society, and when we really want to tackle climate crisis on a global scale, we are dependent on every single human individual, because every single human individual is an evolutionary contribution to the human species with individual skills that nobody else has in this specific way. So we waste ourselves. Yeah? And that was the idea back then, to create a global communication platform that helps people to come together and solve problems together, to address climate crisis and the coming collapse of biodiversity with the ability of every single one to learn, to think, what they first to learn to say what they really mean, and then to mean what they really say, to dig deep into their own concept structure, and then deliver this to others and work with others in a way of no, I'm lacking some vocabulary here. I'm very sorry. To work on a higher level of clarity, as we are now doing. I think that is important, that we do not rely only on materialistic solutions, technical solutions, for example, and economic solutions, but on that we also tackle also work on ourselves in a completely different way than we did before. Was that helpful?
Yes, it was helpful, but I still don't really understand how this could practically look like. So you're focusing, but I don't want to dominate it here. Maybe we should also, before, ask the others what they think, what their thoughts are before I start.
We have half an hour, and I think I can try for another 3 to 5 minutes, and then we will hear what Till and Michael have to say. If this is okay with you, Till and Michael, just thumbs up if you're fine with this. Okay.
So my question is: you say that you start with communication. You say that we have a big communication, which is one of the root causes for the climate crisis. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're suggesting to teach people a different way, or to communicate together? No.
Teaching is important. Everybody should teach what he or she knows, but that is not what we are doing with FORMWELT here. What we are doing with FORMWELT is we are building a platform where you can access 320 concepts which you can use to create your own concepts. For example, my personal understanding of freedom is generate the next possibility. Yeah, that is my idea on freedom. When I say freedom, or I feel free, then what I mean is I am generating the next possibility. And in FORMWELT language, every single one of these words, generate the next possibility, is always an in FORMWELT generated concept. And it is generated the same way with other concepts of FORMWELT. Mm-hmm. So when I say to you, this is freedom to me is generate the next possibility, I deliver 2 options to you now. First, you can build it in your own mind, because when I say to you, please generate the next possibility, now you are doing something that is changing your mind already. And by doing that, you comprehend better what I am talking about. That is one point. The other is you can dig deeply into every single one of the words in this reference, generate the next possibility, because they are also built with FORMWELT. And the more you do that, the more you comprehend how I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say I understand what you think. How is this going to so without, you say you are not going to teach this vocabulary, that is not the approach, but how is then, I could understand if you say, okay, in order to solve a big problem like the climate crisis, we need a common vocabulary to understand each other.
That is helpful to have a universal reference system that everybody can access. So we can dig into the concepts of each other in deep, yeah? Mm-hmm. And every single one of us, while working with this, is very, very clear, far more clear than in social media now. This way we avoid a lot of conflicts that are normally coming with the idea, no, that is not freedom. Yeah, and then we have the first conflict and the emotions started, etc. That is not what is necessary here, because you can say, no, that is not my reference on freedom. I will show you mine, and then you will give me mine, and then we see that. That is one point. The other is people who learn to reference in this way, to think in this way, are far more clearer, far more solution-oriented, far more factual-oriented. It is easier not to become victim to ideological impulse when you know what you are thinking. Yeah, it's a process, and we are thinking in generations here, of course, but we have to start to think in another way. At this moment, when you look in the social media, you see that the people are dealing with conflicts on a very low complexity level. They are fighting with each other on one dimension. No, you are wrong and you are out. Yeah, and when someone comes who is thinks a little bit more differentiated, nobody can see that because of this low complexity level. When people learn to deal with complexity more dimensioned and more differentiated, the communication changes. It changes in a more constructive way. There will still be conflicts, but the conflicts will have another quality. We'll have a quality we can work with and where we can generate new solutions on. So what we are building here is a platform for everybody to join in, to learn these concepts, to create his or her own their own concepts, and then we can start working together on the global problems we have. Now we can create new forms of science, new forms of language. We can create a lot of things, but I do not wish to dominate this conference only with FORMWELT. My idea was broader. When I look at climate crisis, it is a crisis of the human mind and of human communication. We are not clear enough, we are not complexity aware enough, and that is why we are not addressing the problems properly. Yeah?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure whether I agree, but I would like to see what the others say.
Yes. Till, Michael, who of you wants to join in?
So, sorry, I was just wondering. So, if you have like this reference for every for FORMWELT, you have this. I just wanted to ask if it's okay. So if you have like this reference for every individual, like you say, so after because that's like the what you can generate the solution, right?
I think every single one of us is a born problem solver, and we need each other to tackle the big crises we are facing right now. But most of us do not know how to say what they mean. Most of us have problems to address the problem because they do not have the concepts for it.
Yes, I mean, right, because that's the like universal or not universal part of language or communication.
Yes.
So, I mean, when we get to that, when it will be universal or not? Or when it will be universal, will it be like a solution itself, like talking and communicating? I mean, difference.
Let me try it again. Today we have the problem that most people never learned how to say what they mean because they know not much about concept creating. Some philosophers can, some sociologists can, but even in science, I often see that people do not know how to express their thoughts. And that is a problem because it's like you are a human, you are a superhuman, yeah, but something is suppressing your inner powers. something is suppressing your complexity management skills. Children learn language in a very fast way, and they are dealing with complexities that are enormous. Adults, most adults don't do that any longer, but we can.
Yes, this is, I mean, that feeling that you have, that you so excited about what's coming. That's part of, I think, part of the solution, right?
Yes, it is part of. The other part, of course, is technical solutions, yes, is creating new economies to get rid of everything that is blocking us right now, consumerism, etc. But even that, when you look at consumerism as a global problem, what we have here is a society, for example, here in Germany, that still is thriving on dependency systems. People need to go to work, yeah, and when they need to go to work and they know they will lose their jobs when they say what they mean, they have a problem. They unlearn how to say what they mean. It's a conditioning system happening there. Yeah. And that means that, yeah.
Do we have like physics, maybe physics, because mathematics, okay, physics, maybe it's something that's universal, maybe some part of it at least. Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, because how we can speak in sociology, for example, like for energy transference, so you have efficient, or you have you have a good transference between the systems. So there's no heat and there's no losses, etc. Like how we can communicate that to our community, to in our lives, or to.
I'm not sure that I can follow you here. Till, Sabine, can you follow Michael? I'm not sure I'm understanding what you want to say. Are you relating
Yes. Yes, a concept in physics like energy transference.
Okay, yeah.
And how is that relatable?
Yeah. Now I understand. Okay, that's okay. That's a good comparison. I understand. Thank you, Michael.
Or even information symmetry. I think that's one.
The problem we have here is we cannot transport what we think into the mind of other people's. That is not possible. I can say, do not think do not think of a violet hippo right now. Then most of you will have a violet hippo in their mind, but I cannot say in what form, how does it look like, etc. You're creating your own information. I cannot put something in your mind, so I have to communicate. And while I'm communicating, I'm deeply dependent on how clear I can make myself. And that begins with my knowledge about my own concepts. And I often hear people say, I cannot say what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is a relation you can have here. But when you have a universal language system or a universal linguistic reference system with which you can create your own concepts, you can make yourself clear. That still does not mean that the other has to understand you. Yeah, and that this still does not mean that you can put something in the head of other people, but at least you can make yourself as clear as possible. And then others can go onto this platform and have a look at your concepts, and they can dig into them deeply. And then they build them in their own minds. And while doing that, they start comprehending how you think. And that helps with a lot of conflicts we have right now.
Doesn't that require a big effort for those people and to invest time and the real wish to understand your concepts?
Yes, of course, but
so
it will. Yes, of course.
Please
Problems?
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes, of course, but think of all the time and energy that is now spent on conflicts coming from misunderstandings.
Okay, so I'm thinking in terms of I'm thinking about COVID. Yeah, so for example, the message that I get again and again is get vaccinated. I think that is really not so hard to understand, and still many people have the wrong information in their head. Yeah,
Yes.
so they are thinking, oh, I don't know, and maybe there are some I'm doing some later damage to my body when I get vaccinated. Although they are told again and again, no, COVID is more dangerous than getting vaccinated.
Yes.
So I think the message in this case is very clear, but some people just maybe don't want to hear or get messages from other sources. And if there was the true wish to understand, then the true wish to spend some time to dig deeper and look at the data and look what scientists are saying, then I think the result should be clear. But there is no such, at least I cannot observe such the willingness really to understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you are about to build something that really can help mankind, you will not go out there and try to give it to everybody. You just look for those people who are already on the way to change and who are already on the way to create something, to build something with each other, and then you deliver your ideas there. Yeah, it's always the same. Change when you try to create something that really helps to change, and you waste your time with all these people saying, no, I'm not interested, I do not know that I need it, I'm already very happy in my life. Okay, no problem. Yeah, this is not a cult. Yeah, this is just science delivering something that can be helpful to those who want to work with it. And those who want to work with it will be first all the nerds on this planet. Yeah, all the people already understanding that they want to be clearer, that they understand that they need this in order to create better science, in order to mediate better in conflict situations, in order to deliver better therapy, in order to, very important, to work with each other in an interdisciplinary way, where we have language problems all the time because there are many concepts in physics and biology that have a completely different meaning in humanities, for example. Yeah, and that is something there we can help. There we can save time. There we can help people to explore faster, to dig deeper into the concepts of the other, and of course your own. Yeah, when you change the way academic writing is done by this, so the scientist knows how to create their concepts deeply, and then you have the system behind it, and you can look at every single concept. This is what he's meaning. That is what she's talking about. Yeah, then you are very fast in the way how you can read these texts. You are very deep, and then you can dig into the work together very faster as before. That is something where this is helpful, or in mediation, or in therapy, for example, when the therapist can dig into the concepts of his patient. Yeah.
So does that mean that the target group for your approach in the when we look at the context of climate change are scientists?
No, the target group of change is those people who are wanting to change, who are willing to change. Those are the people, and they can be scientists, but there are many other people who are interested and are now actually working. Spiritual people, for example, thinking about new ways, new forms of communities, people who are thinking about new educational systems. And to those is this approach interesting. But it is not only about FORMWELT. What I'm talking here is about mankind always doing the same thing when confronted with catastrophe. It's every single time when we look into the history of mankind, what we see is culling.
What is it?
Culling. What we see is a hard reduction of population via war, pandemics or epidemics, yeah, that is normally happening. High cultures are falling down, people are starting to kill each other, they die, and then a small population grows again, and then we repeat, and we repeat, and we repeat. Why? Because one of the many reasons is that up to today, we have not learned to consciously reflect how we think and speak in a significant mass of society. Most people learn to read in school, but when you look at how, for example, they react to texts in the internet, you see they cannot read properly. They can't.
Yes, but yeah, so you have to include. It's included. It has to be inclusive.
Yeah, it has to be included. It has to be something that you can work with every day. It has to be simple. But first, we have to understand what the problems are. When it is hard to hear this, most people cannot read properly. But it's actually what is happening. When people read text in the internet, many people react to their own triggers and not to the text they are reading. Mostly they are reacting highly selective. Yeah, there's a sentence consisting of, let's say, 12 words, and they react to one word in this sentence. Yeah, that is what is ordinarily happening. So we have to see this problem. We have to see that many do not know how they think and how they communicate. And then we have to help people that they can slow down, that they learn to read and to listen properly, that they learn to speak and to write properly, how to relate one word, one concept to the other. That is important. When you believe you can do that, but actually you can't, how will you see that? How will you know that many conflicts and problems you have are not the result of a human interaction, but of the inability? No, is it inability?
Unfähigkeit.
Yeah, maybe. Inability to read, write, to speak, and listen. And that's an interesting idea. And when now you have a look at this on a global scale, and look at it from a systemic perspective, then you have billions of people communicating with each other, mostly triggered. That costs a lot of money and energy.
But that's a reflection of something, probably our culture.
Yeah.
And we forget. I mean, we don't have this cultural knowledge from past cultures. We don't have it right here.
Yes. And then people tend to overestimate their own abilities. They think, okay, we can help society by, for example, now we start loving each other again. It's a nice idea. But when people start loving each other again, they start to build ideological communities. And when they have their ideological communities, they start to say, you are a part of us or you are not. And when that starts, war starts, conflict starts. And we have to see that. Till, you haven't said a word so far.
Yeah, I was a little bit overwhelmed about because I need a little bit too much time to enter, and so I was not sure about the topic of the breakouts, and so I started listening. This was my concept for
today. I understand.
Nevertheless, I think. At the moment in my environment, if I see the people in this time, how to deal with meta crisis, if you have the choice in between saying the truth at your job and losing it because you see that what crisis is coming up to us, or staying into your job, shut up and wait and hope that other people will solve the problems,
Yeah.
or you don't have a choice in the end. So whether you lose right now or you lose later on your basic, your existential basic. So in this point, there is also a kind of an inability in choice. In point of what you said about freedom, choose the next possibility. I think the people took away their own freedom from themselves and don't recap it in the end or realize it.
Too many, this is the case, yes. When you work in a firm that cleans rooms, it's another thing as when you work in a big corporation, in a middle management position, for example. The conditioning effects in the office is far more intense because you have to bring more of your personality into the job, which means you are even more you dig deeper into the conditioning system. That makes something with your mind when you try to help with transformation and the people do not, or the next level management do not wish to hear this, so you will lose your job. That is doing something to you. So I will talk tomorrow in economy about the relevance of creating social architectures that help people to emancipate themselves economically. We need to free the human mind. We are the problem solvers here. Artificial intelligence will not solve our problems.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like how you say, I have a few questions to ask about ideology and your concept of ideology and the difference with like maybe worldview or something else. I think you spoke about it. I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
And I like how you say like we are the super intelligence, maybe collectively or individually, and how we are complex problem solvers.
Yes. I look at evolution and I see every single human being as an agent of evolution. I think we are something very interesting and fascinating, and I think we have to learn better how we function. And when I have a look at ideology and worldview, the difference between the two is that ideology tends to, in Germany, it's this word Gleichschaltung, to make every single one the same as you are. That is the impulse behind that is the ideological impulse. And the function of ideology is exactly that, to create a community of people that all think the same way, which helps. Yeah, you feel safe, and that is what ideologies deliver. They deliver the feeling that you are safe. Yeah, and ideology, in my opinion, is the biggest enemy we have right now.
I mean, okay, so it's like an equalizing factor, like you make.
Yes.
Why do you think so? Ideology is the biggest enemy we have?
Because ideology leads to communities that that say, if you are not of the same mind, you are not part of this community. Because it leads to conflict and it leads to war. It always has.
Okay, so what I still don't really see the connection to, you have talked about these ideologies and people who say we love each other are creating their own ideology, and you are either part of it or not, which is, I think, part of human nature, isn't it? That
yes.
You build your own communities and either you are part of it, or you are not, and the ones who are not part of it are the enemies.
It's not something I create here in my mind. It's just something I observe. When I look at the history of mankind, systems that have tried the love path always have ideologized and always led to conflict and war. It's just something that always had happened.
Yeah, okay. So knowing that, how does that knowledge solve us to create, to solve the climate crisis?
It helps in order to understand that that will not help. At least it will not help when we try this as a social solution. The antithesis to this is to help people to see where their own ideological impulses lie and react to what is socially happening. That is what is helping here. That is what we never have tried before as a broader social concept. We have tried love, empathy, which are all good values, yes? But every single time we tried them as a social solution, they ideologized. Why? Because we have not thought about yet that we are the ones who are reacting to our own ideological impulses. So we now have to reflect on them, and then we can think about something else. We can think about, for example, helping each other not to react triggered by soft values and their counterpoints.
Mm-hmm.
That is something we can do.
So when we look at, for example, our Green Party and the Liberal Party that we have right now, so I think they have two different ideologies, right? The Green Party says, okay, we rely on, there have to be regulations, for example, the tempo limit, and that I think that's a ideologic struggle that they have, one of them. And the FDP says, okay, no, we don't want to have to tempo limit because we are the party of freedom. Maybe they define freedom a little bit different from your definition.
Right. I think they do. When it comes to politics, I think of where does politics come from? Politics, as we know it, is a result of an old Greek conception of a city, of urbanization. Yeah, is our system now, but we have now a completely different era with a completely different complexity. We are not talking about cities with 20,000 and states with 200,000 people. We are talking about cities with millions of people and a world population with billions of people. That's a completely different thing. So politics is far too slow to solve the current problems. And politics is always, especially in democratic states, reflecting how the people in this state, in this of this nation, of this country, are thinking and reacting to them. It's an interaction between politicians and their citizens. So we can see when we look at the German Green Party or at the FDP, the Liberal Party in Germany, we can see in the looking glass how people in our country are thinking. Yeah, if we in a mass would not accept this sort of politics, we would not have it. Yeah, so in the history, we always addressed politics. We relied on politics. We hoped they will solve the problems alongside with economy, technology, etc. But we know this is not enough. We can see this everywhere on the planet, that this is not enough. We know that we have to come to think as a global community, but we also know that when we talk about community, we at the same time have the problem with ideological impulses at hand, where people talk about empathy and love and trust and etc. And then they think about what the other has to do, and not how they themselves can change in a way that they do not react any longer triggered by what someone else is saying. And I think that is what we should work on. And working on your own concepts is helping with this. Also is helping clarity of language. Yes, so I'm switching here the way we think. I do not say love, empathy, etc. are wrong. I say I love to love, and I'm a very empathetic person. But I also see that clarity of mind leads to a higher clarity how you can be triggered, and then you can be triggered, but your mind is still functioning in a rational way. So they are your emotions, but you do not have to follow them. You can have them there because you know there are your concepts, and in your concepts you are clear and you know what you are talking about. So you can do that while body emotions are flowing, etc. But you are not triggered by your own triggers any longer.
Yeah.
I think there's also a
Yes.
difference in between what means to love someone for the one he is or she is, or to make a concept out of loving each other in a group and say, you
Yes.
are one of which is loving and you are not the one of it which is not loving, or the one which is not loving. So then you make an ideology and which is not love. It's not about love. It's about being a group and being something that is you can be inside or outside. And this is the difference between love and love.
And when you have a look at the German consumerism and you see what people put into their wagons when they go to the supermarket, you see that there is a lack of love and empathy in the way we deal with our daily lives. Why? I think one of the answers is because we are living deeply in dependency, as not independence, but dependency systems. And these dependency systems do something with us. We are exploiting ourselves, we are exploiting others. And I cannot think of even one single human being knowing that she is exploiting others and staying sane. It's not possible. Think about it. You have to do something with your mind, in your mind, not to think about this in order to survive. That does already, and again, does something with you. That is why people can buy meat in the poor meat in the supermarket and put them on their grills and have a big party and eat it, because they do not think about where does this come from, etc. And many need this form of consumerism in order to fill a hole in the middle and in order to live with daily conflicts coming from your conscious knowing that what you are doing is not okay, but having no way of changing this because you will be punished when you try. So what can we do here? We can help people to connect with other people thinking the same way. We can help people to dig deeper into their own consciousness via clarity of language. And then we can start building, they can start building communities that actually are functioning in a more healthy way.
May I ask you on this point, how to avoid ideology?
You can't. Every single thing on this planet thinkable can be ideologized, even mathematics.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is a difference between a mathematical function and love or trust. So, so we have to think about our concepts and have to have a clear look at them and think about how big is the ideological impulse of this concept. In the long run, we can have the best intentions now, but we have to know that everything that can be ideologized will be ideologized. Over the years, over the generations, it will happen. So we can start here now to think about this, and then we can start to think about an ethic of freedom that helps others to live their own autonomy, because we are giving them space by not interfering with their concept creation. Yeah, but that is
okay. So let's come back. I like practical examples. So I could understand your example of the person in the supermarket.
Yeah, good.
It was practical enough for me. Yes. So this person in the supermarket who is buying cheap sausages and goes home and eats it without thinking about the poor pig. Yeah. And you probably, if this person would think about the poor pig, the sausage wouldn't like to eat his sausage anymore. So somehow this person manages to, at least for the time being, not think about the pig.
Yeah.
So how can we reach such a person? You said you can reach this person to make the approach would be for this person to become clearer about their own concept, right?
Yes, I think.
So how can we reach this person to become clearer about their own concept when they are able to not think about the pig while they are eating the sausage? So I'm trying to connect. You see what I'm trying to do? The practical level with the abstract level.
I understand. I'm not so much a fan about reaching people, because also that has a high ideological value. Yeah, if you think in this way, I have to reach people, you are about to think that you have to talk like them. You have to talk in a way that they can understand you. So you have to do what we call this Augenhöhe, eye level. Yeah, and when you do that, you are already about to losing some of what is important to yourself. I'm thinking completely the other way around. Again, the antithesis here. Let's deliver something that helps people to do this themselves. Let's deliver something they can use to create concepts that help them better to deal with the complexities of today. I think a lot of consumerism is sheer frustration. Frustration, yeah. I think I know this stress eating. No, I'm a fan of stress eating. When I'm happy and when I'm clear and when my communication systems work, when the conflict systems I'm confronted with are creative, I do not need to buy so much stuff. I do not eat so much. I do other things. I go swimming, I go walking, I'm riding my bike, I talk to my friends, stuff like that. So if we deliver something that helps people to navigate complexity better, then they learn better to say what they mean and mean what they say, which can make you happy, because now you finally, expressing yourself the way you really think.
Okay, but in order to deliver something that helps people, what you deliver has to be somehow interesting or attractive to people.
Yes.
Otherwise, they just wouldn't. So
Right.
this is what I mean when I say I want to reach them.
Yeah.
If I cannot make them interested, then they don't know that it exists, or
Right.
they don't look at it for a second. And it
Yes.
takes some time to understand what you're
Yes.
saying. That is what I am experiencing.
Yes. And now you're talking about the two-edged sword marketing. That is what it comes down to. You market yourself, you market your ideas, you are thinking about how to communicate that other people can follow you. It's a two-edged sword where you always have to think about the ideological impulse involved in this process. While at the same time you want to make sure that the autonomy of the other is never hurted. Is never heard. So it's not an easy thing to do.
Yes, I mean, like, is it really like so independent that you can say it's autonomous? Something that's so dissociated from the system, maybe.
I think that every single one of us has the right to making their own decisions. I think that is important. So if I think about how can I bring an idea to people, of course I have to use different languages to do that. Yeah, but at the same time, I have to think about ideological impulses and what that will do to what I want to deliver. I have to think about it. When I'm careless and I'm only I want many likes, I want much money, I want as many people following me, then I will build something that already everybody knows, because because what people know what they already know. Because when I give something what people already know, they feel safe, so they will dig into this more easily. But when I have something really new, I have a problem here, because we only understand something new first from our own perspective, from everything we now know. So when I try to explain something new to someone who know nothing about this, and this new thing is emergent and has another complexity, I have this problem that I have to use a language that can lead to me betraying my project and my concept.
It's a vicious circle.
Yes, it is. It is. It is really hard to do that. And that is why I and my husband and I came up with this idea of a global platform where people can dig in. There we can use different learning ideas, videos, animations, games, etc. People like to dig into the concepts without betraying the concepts by teaching them, by trying to reach out. The moment I try to reach out, I work with my charisma, with my personality. There's nothing more dangerous than charisma when it comes to ideology. And again, there's this problem. I've thought about this a lot. And when you are living an ethic of freedom, there are so many ways you cannot go. Because every time you have to think about the autonomy of the other deeply. That is really a complicated thing, but it is. We all have to try, I think. And when we have platforms where we can meet in a non-toxic way, I think we will have a different society. I'm not sure if this society will be better, but at least it will be different, and hopefully it will can help with climate change, because the way we are working right now, the way we are communicating and thinking right now, everything is going more bad by the day. We see that, the CO2 levels do not fall down, they grow.
Gitta.
Yes, our time is.
We are approaching the top of the hour, so
yes,
we should somehow wrap all of this up, but on your own time, please.
Thank you so much. Is there something you want to say at the end of our meeting? I'm very, very grateful for you talking to us here. Sabine, you have really pressed the point. Thanks. I love that.
Yes, thank you for being so patient to explain to me and answering my question. For me, it was really an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Larnaca-Conferences are a participatory event. So every year we will do something new and add to the quality we already have. We take our time here. So every single one of you is really important, your perspective. And if you want to write something and add to the work, you can send it to contact at FORMWELT.net. And we will publish it at Larnaca-Conferences blog at Karl Auer Magazine. Yeah, your participation is relevant. And in the end, we will meet in real life, I hope, when Corona finally is done, and we will see that we have a good long coffee break for over 1 day or two, probably in Larnaca, where we can meet Michael in his hometown in Cyprus, and talk even more.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Till, did you want something to say?
I'm very happy to participate on the first day of the Larnaca-Conferences 2021, and I'm curious about what will follow. And it was great to meet you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes, I applaud this feeling for building something, and being more conscious about, and it's very, I think that's the key here.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Bye-bye.
You have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Matthias.